I first met David at the student bar in college. I had seen him before and thought he was the strong, silent type. When he was in a group of other students, he never dominated the conversation. His participation was usually limited to answering questions. He paid attention to people and seemed polite and caring, a good listener. When he sat alone, he looked deep in thought, always serious and usually sad. He changed his expression and attitude if anyone joined him. He was a mystery that I wanted to solve. One day when the tables were full, I asked permission to join him. He said it would be an honor for me and pretended it was true. His joy seemed to appear when I spoke to him. He smiled and I managed to make him laugh at some of my jokes. We remained in a constant state of conversation until he said that he had to go to class. I told him that I enjoyed talking to him. "Me too," he replied. Damn, he was so cute. 2 days later, he was in the same place and I asked him if Saves is there a place for me next to him? Yes, I protected him at the cost of my life. We started talking again, and laughter came easier to him than the first time. I loved seeing him smile. I knew I was falling in love with him, quickly. After a few repeat encounters, I wondered if he was ever going to ask me out. I took the initiative into my own hands. "Dave, I just asked a friend to give me a couple of tickets to the Phil Collins concert. Would you like to go? Don't you have a guy who could take you?" It seemed to me that he was trying to find an excuse not to go with me. "Hey, if you don't want to go." "No, I'm sorry. I'm just surprised that a sweet girl like you doesn't have a boyfriend. I didn't insult you." I moved closer to him. "I'm good, aren't I? Tell me, how good am I?" He smiled. "You are beautiful, smart, and very witty. This is my favorite feature about you." Damn it, I was hoping for sexuality. He blushed. He actually blushed. "Nancy, you're taking me out of my comfort zone. Yes, I do think you're sexy, but I don't want our relationship to be based solely on looks. I would like to know you better, but to know is not in the biblical sense. And now, I would love to go to the concert with you." We went to the concert. I had a great time and he seemed to enjoy it. We walked back to my dorm. He hugged me. No kiss, not even on the cheek. My assessment of my attractiveness took a hit. After several weeks of constant meetings, I became worried again. "Dave, don't you like me?" "Of course I really like you." "Then why don't you ask me out on a date?" "I would like to, but are we going down a path that could end with us getting married?" There's no reason to go down this path if we have no chance of getting married. I need 2 things before I seriously start dating a girl. I need to meet her parents, who need to approve of me dating her, and she needs to know that I don't want to have children. Think about what I just said. If you agree, set a day and time to meet with your parents. Please understand that even if you agree to these 2 things and we date, it does not necessarily mean we will get married. I just won't go on a trip until you do. I was stunned. Most of the boyfriends I had didn't want to date my parents. The no children statement was not that unusual and could perhaps be revised later. I didn't really feel that strong of feelings anyway. Dave blew my mind about men. I called my parents, who were immediately puzzled as to how serious our relationship was if he wanted to meet them. My father asked me if I was pregnant. My mother was ready to plan the wedding. I told them to behave themselves and not ruin it all. One evening, we met my parents. Dave started the conversation after some small talk and then got down to business. "Mr. and Mrs. Jackson, I appreciate your willingness to meet with me before Nancy and I start dating." I asked for this because I don't date casually. I view dating as steps towards marriage if, and only if, everything goes well. Will everything be okay for Nancy and me? I have no idea yet. All I know is I'd like to find out. My other problem is that I don't plan to have children with my wife. I hope you understand that my reasons for this are too personal for me to reveal. I know how excited some parents are for their grandchildren. If this is not acceptable to you, I will respect your decision and will not date Nancy. Having listened to what I had to say, I ask your permission to meet with your daughter. There was a long pause before my father finally spoke. Even though Nancy is an adult and doesn't need our permission, I appreciate you talking to us first. I don't see any problem in giving ours agreeing for you two to date. I can't speak for my wife. Dave, I want Nancy to choose who she dates based solely on her own feelings. Of course, I want grandchildren, but having a happy daughter is more important. For today, you have my blessing. Dave and I thanked them and left. I hugged him tightly before we stepped off the porch. He smiled. I really liked his smile. Our dating life began that night. Dave said the right things and did the right things on our dates. We became more intimate in our kissing and touching each other, but we never had sex. We dated exclusively for a year, and I thought we had reached a plateau, a good plateau, but I wondered if we were stuck or if we were going anywhere from here. Dave, I love you. If you love me, tell me where you think we're headed as a couple. Nancy, I love you very much. I think it's time we discussed marriage. I hope this doesn't scare you as much as it does me. Scare me? Dave, sometimes you seem completely clueless. If you ask, I answer, yes. Well, then I'm asking. Nancy Jackson, will you marry me? Wait a minute, let me think about this. Good, yes. We got married after finishing school. The wedding was simple to save money. Within a few months, we both had good jobs. Dave was great in bed and seemed to enjoy a lot of foreplay before sex. He did not turn out to be timid, like the virgin I took him for. He never said anything about the women he dated and/or had sex with. Neither of us ever talked about my apparent lack of virginity. Dave did a great job around the house and was willing to share household chores. He often asked if he was doing enough to help. I always received compliments for my cooking, cleaning, laundry, and especially my ability to please him in bed. My female colleagues were very jealous. Our home life was full of energy focused on communication, caring, love, sex, and laughter. To save money, we rarely ate out and stayed to play board games or card games instead of going to the movies or concerts. An old DVD movie and popcorn were a regular part of a Friday night's routine, along with cuddles. The only thing that surprised me about Dave was that he turned out to be a consummate teaser and joker. This was supposed to be my strength, so I wasn't going to give in. It was as if April Fool's Day came to our house at least once a month. I still smile just thinking about those days and some of the pranks we played on each other. Almost a year after the wedding, a serious incident occurred. At the time, I was afraid that I might lose my husband because of this. Even though I took the pills regularly, I became pregnant. 3 home pregnancy tests and 2 tests at the doctor's office were positive. I was afraid to tell him. I didn't want to lose him. I held it in until he noticed the morning sickness and asked what was wrong. The dam broke and I blurted out, "I am pregnant. I'm really sorry." I shed some serious tears. Dave didn't change his stoic expression. After a pause, he said, "Let's talk about this after you calm down." It took me a few minutes to calm down before he asked, "What would you really like?" "Dave, I want to have a child, but if you want, I will keep my promise to you to live without children. I will agree to give the child up for adoption, but I will not have an abortion. You can decide for us whether to keep the child or give him up for adoption. I hope we keep it." Nancy, I don't believe in killing babies either. I was very touched when you said you wanted to keep it. This tells me a lot about your love and our marriage. I truly believe in supporting you the same way you support me. I will have to give up my previous position for your sake. For me to be happy in our marriage, you must be happy. I agree that you keep the child. I promise to be the best father I can be. You will never hear a word of regret from me. I ran up and threw myself into his arms with tears of joy. Krista was born, and she was beautiful. Dave kept his word, and I couldn't have asked for a better father for the baby. She was only 6 months old when he surprised me again. I don't think it's good for a child to be the only one. How about giving her a sibling in a year or so? You can stay home and be a mother for a while. I will have a vasectomy after the birth of our second child. I was stunned. All I could squeeze out was a week. Okay, Melody was born almost exactly 2 years after Krista. I quit my job for a few years and then went back to my old job. I never found any problems with Dave's attitude towards his parents. That doesn't mean I didn't suspect he had some problems. I just wasn't sure what the problem was or what to do about it. As earlier in college, Dave sometimes sat alone in his chair and seemed lost in thought. Sometimes this upset him to the point of tears. As wonderful as he is in every way you would want a husband to be, I got the impression that he was hiding something from me, our marriage and our family. He didn't seem fully prepared to be my husband and the girl's father. Since I had more good stories about my husband in my married life than most of my friends had about theirs, I blessed my lucky stars for what I had. With an older girl in college and a second about to enter, I reviewed life in the empty nest. I remembered how exciting dating was before marriage and what sex with Dave was like during the first time of marriage. For the first year, we barely left the bedroom on weekends. 2 kids, a job, and paying bills year after year seemed to drain the thrill of the marriage like a balloon losing helium. I really missed the good old days when we first got married, and there were only 2 of us. We had a lot of fun. I struggled to find a new purpose in my life. There was a hole in my life that children filled. How could I fill this hole now? Having an affair was an option that I sometimes considered due to the proposals I received from some very handsome men. Men still hit on me, even at my age. Some felt that my marriage enhanced my qualities rather than hindered them. There were a couple of times when the right man and the right circumstances seemed to assure me that my husband was unlikely to find out if I strayed, but I never did anything more than flirt. We often teased each other about having an office wife and an office husband. I spent a lot of time watching Dave, which I don't think he was aware of. There were times like before when I saw Dave staring into space with a sad expression on his face. I asked if anything was bothering him, and he answered, "Nothing." I knew it wasn't just like that. I suspected that there was some tragedy in his past that he was not comfortable sharing. What could I do? One day it dawned on me. Laughter was what I missed most compared to before. Dave did everything to make me laugh, and vice versa. I had one of those snorting laughs. When I inhaled while laughing, I sounded like a pig. This in turn caused more laughter and so on, until we were both crying with laughter. For several years, until the children became adults, we played pranks on each other to laugh and have fun. This practice seemed to be dying out. We may have thought that we should set a more mature example for our children. Now I figured it was time to start the giveaways again, especially since April is coming soon. Our marriage could be rejuvenated. I spent the weeks leading up to April 1st, working to organize my giveaway. I talked about the new man in the office and how all the women were crazy about him. I bragged about how Evan danced when we had an office party that Dave couldn't attend. I started working overtime at work and having a bachelorette party once a week. When I got home, I took a shower before going to bed. I began to gradually cut Dave off from oral and vaginal sex under various pretexts. I nagged at him for doing his chores. I complained that I had to redo a lot of his chores because he didn't do them right. I have overcooked, undercooked, or otherwise ruined many of our dinners. Despite his annoyed expression, he wasn't complaining about anything, but he looked ready to explode. When the 1st of April arrived, I was anxious but ready. It was about 6 o'clock in the evening when the doorbell rang.
Dave, open it. Either way, this is probably for you. Really, Nancy? I guess it doesn't matter that you're only 10 feet from the door. I'm tired. It won't kill you if you do something nice for me for a change. Dave reluctantly headed towards the door. I knew what was waiting for him there. A woman our age stood there with a package in her hands, her head down. She didn't look at all like what I thought a server should look like. Dave greeted her. "Yes, can I help you? Are you David Livingston?" She looked at her feet. "Yes." "Could you show me some identification?" He pulled out his wallet and showed his driver's license. The good part was about to come. I almost giggled in anticipation. "Did you go to Anderson County High School?" I was surprised why she asked this. It wasn't part of the script. "Yes, why do you ask?" "Have you met a girl named Allison Kirk? What's happening?" I stood up and headed towards the door. Dave was very upset, but finally answered, "Yes, we met, but then she left. I'm afraid to say, but she died many years ago." The girl raised her head and looked into his eyes. "I'm alive, Dave. I'm here and more alive than ever." David looked at her again. His eyes became big. I thought he was going to faint. Eli? Eli? My God, is it really you? Now her face was full of tears. Yes. But your parents told me you were dead. They said you committed suicide because of me. It was a lie to keep you from trying to find me. David reached out and pulled her towards him. They hugged and kissed. It seemed like they would never stop. I thought I would never see you again in this life. Please come in before I have a heart attack. They went and sat next to each other on the sofa. I walked over to my deep chair. They held hands and giggled like two giddy teenagers. I was completely ignored and it made me angry. I intervened. Excuse me, you two. Dave, can you tell me what the hell is going on here? Who is this woman and why are you groping her from all sides? Nancy, this is Allison Kirk, my first and only true love. I never told you about her because it brought back too many sad memories for me. I thought she was dead. Her presence here is a miracle to me. Your one true love? I'm sorry. Who am I then? Allison and I were head over heels in love with each other in high school. We were sure that we would get married and start a family after finishing school. Her parents were very conservative and were opposed to me as a potential son-in-law. We weren't even allowed to meet. Allison was sneaking out of the house late at night. When everything was forbidden, sex didn't seem so taboo. We were going to get married soon. We had sex whenever we could. One day I ran out of condoms and we took a chance. Allison got pregnant. We planned to run away and get married, but Allison was too young to sign for herself. We needed at least one of her parents to sign the contract. We hoped that her pregnancy and my desire to marry her would convince them to sign the contract, but soon after Allison told her parents, they took her and left. Until now, I have never heard from her. Her parents called out of the blue a few months after they left and told me that Allison committed suicide because she had a child out of wedlock. The child died when she did this. Dave then turned to Allison in tears. Allison, what happened to our child? Did you have an abortion? No, I didn't want to, and my parents wouldn't let me anyway. They made up a story and told everyone that my husband served in the army and was killed. Actually, our son is now in his last year of college. He has my intelligence and your athletic body. I hope you get to know him soon. When I told him about you after my parents' funeral, he said he wanted to meet you as soon as possible. What's his name? I wanted to name him after you at birth, but my parents didn't allow it. Until recently, his name was Justin. I have officially changed his name to David Austin Livingston Jr. with his full approval.
Dave was now crying like a baby. Of course I want to meet him. Someone pinch me. I can't believe this is happening. I spoke. I cannot too. David, this has gone far enough. Please ask this person to leave our house immediately. You and I need to discuss several important issues in private. There was an expression of angry determination on Dave's face that I had never seen before. No, I lost Allison once, and I'm not going to lose her again. I sat there in shock. Dave continued his questions. Allison, what happened to you when they took you away? My parents gave me an ultimatum. Leave with them, or they will never support me again. Dave, I was a pregnant teenager with no financial support other than my parents. You didn't have money to feed yourself, let alone your family. It hurt me to leave you, but I didn't have much choice. I went with them and kept my promise to never contact you. I had to agree to this, so they wouldn't give our child up for adoption. I lived in hell for 20 years. If I didn't have our son, I probably would have committed suicide. I've thought many times about how I could contact you without them knowing. They threatened to take Justin away from me, and I would never see him or them again. They watched me like hawks. I didn't have a mobile phone. I didn't have my own money. I never dated other people unless they were with me. It was strange. They even periodically took me to a guy with a lie detector and asked if I had tried to contact you. Everything changed overnight when my parents died in a car accident 6 months ago. Suddenly, I had the hope of seeing you that had been suppressed for so long. Dave, it took me the last few months to find you. I found information about you. When I found out that you were married, I almost gave up. I didn't want to ruin a happy marriage. Instead, I observed you and your home to see if I could determine whether you were happily married. I'm not ashamed to admit that I hope this wasn't the case. Then today a young woman came up to my car and asked if I knew where David Livingston lived. I pointed to your house. She said, "Damn it, I hate serving people." She told me that your wife has filed for divorce. I took this as a sign from God. I bribed her to let me do it. I suggested that if your wife divorced you, I might have a chance to live again with you. Was someone going to serve me? She handed Dave the package. "Oh yes, David, you've been served." He took the package and began to open it. I screamed, "Please don't open it." It was an April Fool's joke. Just ignore it. He reread the document. I saw the anger growing on his face. If Allison hadn't shown up, receiving this divorce petition would still have broken my heart. Nancy, how could you be so mean? Although I should probably thank you. Now I have absolutely no guilt for Allison and I. He turned to Allison and took her hands in his. "Please tell me that you are not married." "Of course not. I was never even interested in another man." "Are you upset that I got married?" "Dave, you thought I was dead. You did what you had to do to survive. I can't hold it against you for this." "Allison Kirk, will you marry me?" I screamed. "What did you just say?" "Oh yes, Dave, yes, yes, yes." They hugged. "You can't marry her, damn it. You're married to me." "Not for long." He took out a pen and signed the documents. "Well, the marriage is over. It won't work. I'm going to give up on the divorce. We are still married." "Great. I'll just submit my own paperwork as soon as I can. I will be as fair as possible." Allison spoke up. "Dave, don't fight about money. I have a good job and my parents left me quite a lot of money. You could leave all your money to her and we'd be fine." I was seething with anger. "What about me? I won't be okay. The main thing I need is him, not his money or property." "Damn it, Dave, we've got 20 years of marriage and 2 kids, for God's sake. What will the girls think about you leaving me for an old girlfriend?" "Nancy, I am holding your divorce petition in my hands. This more than suggests that you no longer want me as a husband. You've made it clear that the new guy at work is the one you want, and you've probably already been together. I think the girls will understand when I tell them the whole story. In the long run, they will probably come to love Allison and their new brother. I told you it was an April Fool's joke. I didn't actually intend to divorce you. Being new to work is a myth. I just wanted to do something stupid and pull one of my pranks. I wanted to bring some spark back into our marriage. I'm afraid that you stifled the spark that was there, if that's really the case. I think what you're doing is more of a "you don't want me until someone else wants me" provocation. Allison, give me a minute to gather some things. He headed upstairs to our bedroom, so we sat, 2 women, his true love, and his stupid wife, or ex-wife, depending on how you look at it. Allison spoke up. "Mrs. Livingston, I'm sorry to upset you so much, but David and I have something eternal between us. I really think our reunion was destined. Just be happy for the many years you had him. I would love to live these years with him. Instead, these 20 years were pure agony for me. I love him more than life itself. You bitch, stealing husbands. I have to kill you. No threats, bribes, delaying tactics, or anything else will stop us now. This is the moment I've waited far too long for, and I'm not going to give it up for you or anyone else. We deserve a chance at some happiness in our lives." "What about happiness in my life? What have I done to deserve this? What are you whining about? I would never have approached him until I found out you were divorcing him. Are you deaf? It was a damn joke. April Fool's joke. You're pathetic. How do you manage to torment the one you supposedly love more than anyone else? How cruel you are. I hope we never see you again." "Don't count on it. I will fight this scam tooth and nail." Dave came down with a couple of bags packed. He turned to me. "I know this sounds sudden, but thinking about Allison was what made me look so pensive and sad at times. I thought about what I lost when Allison and our baby died. Nancy, I cared deeply about you and our marriage until the last few months. Honestly, I'm not surprised you filed for divorce. It was obvious that you didn't like me anymore and you thought you had better options with the men in your office. I suspected you were cheating during your work late sessions. As I said, I will be fair in the divorce. I think it would be better for us to no longer have any contact except through our lawyers. Allison, can we go meet our son now? Of course, my love. They kissed. I didn't remember him ever kissing me so passionately. I watched them walk to their cars. She was the first, and he followed on her heels. So much for my April Fool's joke. And then it dawned on me. You idiot! It was David's April Fool's joke on me. I started laughing. That son of a bitch got me. He got me good. I wonder where he got Allison or whatever her name is. She really is a great actress. I expected them to return at lunchtime and gloat about how they had deceived me, but no. They weren't there in the morning either. Damn it! They're really playing this joke. It wasn't until I received his divorce papers that I finally realized it wasn't a joke. I tried to fight the divorce, but after 6 months of fighting with counteroffers, it became clear that the three of them had already become a new family without our divorce. I gave up, sold the house, and moved closer to the girls, who, unfortunately for me, liked their new stepmother and older brother. They thought the miraculous reunion of their father, his true love, and son was a significant moment. All this, of course, did not arouse my sympathy. In the years since our divorce, little has changed in my life, except for my grandchildren, which we share with all the politeness I can muster at family gatherings. My worst time is when April 1st comes, which reminds me of what happened. It wasn't all my fault. Who the hell reunites with his long-lost lover and son, both presumed dead? We could have ended up getting divorced either way, but I made it a lot easier with my prank. I don't do any April Fool's pranks anymore. Subscribe to our channel so that your second chaff doesn't cheat on you, and go ahead and listen to the next story, because this story is nothing compared to the next one.